Now, for the first time, hear the story not just of the man who was wronged, but of the revolutionary discovery that was almost lost. This is a journey from a remote Indian village of Jammu to a secret life-sustaining machinery of the universe. From the soil of India, which happened to be under the British rule then, he dared to dream of a life in science. He became a distinguished professor of molecular biology and biochemistry in America, on the verge of a discovery that promised to change everything. Centuries in the making for one distinguished professor. It was the pinnacle of a lifetime of achievements. He is Dr. Rameshwar K. Sharma, who was at the peak of glories. But with that success came an offer. And with that offer, a carefully laid trap to Cleveland Clinic Foundation. What begins with a single typo error spirals into a conspiracy that reaches the highest levels of power. A conspiracy that found its most powerful ally. A congressman with a fearsome reputation, a personal vendetta, and the power to bend the entire US scientific integrity system to his will. The other side of the conspiracy was not only his destruction, but the story of what they tried so hard to steal. The monumental discovery that made him a target. This is a tale of a single life-sustaining multi-limbed molecule, a key to life itself, hidden somewhere in the subconscious mind of every living organism. A universal switch that controls the very processes that keep us all alive. A biological thread connecting humans to insects, plants, and animals across 250 million years of evolution. This is the saga of a brilliant mind, the institution that betrayed him, and the decades-long fight for a truth that was buried in plain sight. Chapter 1: Life-Changing Events. In this chapter, he speaks of the life-changing events that shaped his life and his discovery of the molecule in the subconscious mind that sustains life. This is the same molecule that controls and maintains sugar levels, blood pressure, reproduction, respiration, vision, and many other functions which seem automatic in nature, but is taken care by this molecule, which took him over 5 decades to discover.
Hello, my name is Dr. Teresa Duda. I'm a colleague of Dr. Sharma. I feel privileged to introduce Dr. Rameshwar Sharma, the retired distinguished professor of biochemistry and molecular biology. Together with his group and collaborators, Dr. Sharma authored 303 publications, including 3 books, 20 monographs, and held 2 US patents. He has organized and been a plenary speaker of 22 international global symposia, amounting to the awards of almost $7.3 million. His work has been funded by the numerous awarding agencies. First, National Institute of Health, Pennsylvania Lions Club Eye Research Foundation, National Science Foundation, Damon Runyon Walter Winchell Cancer Fund, and Veterans Administration Research. He is the discoverer of the multi-limb membrane guanylate cyclase molecule that has brought a transformational change in our understanding of the field of cellular signal transduction. Dr. Sharma, could you please tell us about all the life-changing events that shaped your life and made you to enter the field of physiological sciences?
In 1945, accompanying my father in the Dogra Regiment in the Himalayan mountains in Bunji Gilgit of the Jammu and Kashmir state, India, I crystallized sodium chloride. With the conscious passion set on fire, I started dreaming about becoming a scientist. On October 5, 1947, at the age of 11, I became fatherless due to the Pakistan Pathan tribal army's siege of Punch, Jammu Tawi, of the Dogra Battalion, where my father served as a medical doctor. Now I had to carve my own way. The year 1953, at the age of 17, I spent approximately 2 week time with Honorable Atal Bihari Vajpayee. It happened during my summer vacation in the house of Daya Kishan Kotwal in Bhadrawa, Jammu. Honorable Vajpayee was a political fugitive hiding in Mr. Kotwal's house. Mr. Vajpayee on May 8, 1953 at 6:30 am in a jeep to Jammu had escaped the police arrest from Sheikh Abdullah's government. In 1966 to 2023, my research team founded the multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase cellular signal transduction pathway at the molecular, genomic, and physiological levels. The discovery underwent aggressive scientific resistance, including certain Nobel Prize knitted network members. They not only denied, even ridiculed its existence. Suddenly, in complete turnaround, 3 of these members received the Nobel Prize for the discovery of the multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase's second messenger, cyclic GMP, that it generates as a hormonal messenger. In the fake news controversy, the discovery raised the fierce political wrath in the United States of America. Geared by the prominent self-serving politician, Democratic Congressman John Dingell, it was linked with the scientific fraud. Yet, in a historical court verdict, Rameshwar K. Sharma versus the United States government, I won and was exonerated of any wrongdoing. The multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase pathway survived without any blemish and made a transforming scientific contribution. The pathway controlled all of the life-sustaining processes. Notably, the media, Washington Post, New York Times, and Cleveland Plain Dealer called me, acknowledging the political and scientific wrong inflicted on me. Even today, the multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase discovery has not received any major meritorious scientific acclamation. It remains largely ignored and vaguely mentioned. In politics, interlaced with the discovery, impeded its scientific progress and caused a permanent financial and personal damage to me and my family members, my wife Joan, daughter Sania, and son Hari. All of us never recovered.
These are really fascinating events, and every one of them deserves to be narrated in detail. Is there anyone which you will like to narrate first?
It is the discovery of the multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase cellular signal transduction pathway. It took 54 years, 1969 to 2023, to accomplish this task. The discovery is monumental in the field of cell biology. Not only it established the membrane gauntlet cyclase signal transduction field, it also revolutionized the arts of developing clinical therapies to the diseases linked with the physiology of the endocrinology, cardiovasculature, sensory neurons, and cancer. Most significantly, sole molecule, the membrane gauntlet cyclase, does so via its multi-limbed structure. The interrelated limbs throughout the central, sympathetic, and parasympathetic systems define their physiology. To do so, they generate their common hormonal second messenger, cyclic GMP. The foundation principles of this pathway were laid down by the discovery of its first limb, the adrenocorticotropic hormone ACTH. Significantly, it challenged the both existing dogmas at the time. First, there was the question of the independent existence of this membrane gauntlet cyclase pathway that was different from its heme-dependent soluble form. Second, the only known hormonal cellular signal pathway was that of cyclic AMP. Structurally, both of these pathways were three-component transduction systems modulated by GTP binding proteins.
How did you prove that in addition to a three-component transduction system, there exists also one-component transduction system?
A unique structural feature of the multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase transduction system is that it is encoded by multiple 7 genes, respectively termed as ANF-RGC, CNP-RGC, ROS-GC1, ROS-GC2, OWN-GC, STAR-GC, and GCG, bearing 9 limbs. Each limb is coded to perform a uniquely designated physiological function. Limb 1 controls ACTH modulated steroidogenesis. Limbs 2, 3, and 4 control cardiovasculature and central nervous system plasticity. Limbs 5 and 6, vision. Limb 7, taste. Limb 8, smell and central nervous system plasticity. Limb 9 regulates electrolyte and water balance in the intestine. Thereby, without the presence of the multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase signaling pathway structure, all our life-sustaining universal world would vanish. Molecularly, the membrane gauntlet cyclase is a single transmembrane spanning protein. Its extracellular domain is located outside the cell and senses hormones and other extracellular chemical signals. These signals are then transmitted by the transmembrane domain to the catalytic regulatory domains to control the synthesis of cyclic GMP in the core catalytic domain. Together, these limbs control the life-sustaining processes linking all the vital organs: brain, testes, ovary, gut, adrenal gland, heart, kidney, smooth muscle, and sensory neurons. The intriguing and unique feature of all these processes is that all are switched on by generating a simple molecule, cyclic GMP, that in turn becomes its sole functional hormonal second messenger. In this operation, the membrane gauntlet cyclase is the hormonal switch and cyclic GMP is second messenger.
Is the multi-limb membrane gauntlet cyclase signaling system specific to mammals, or does it exist also in lower organisms?
Intriguingly, this signaling system exists also in the 250 million years old silk pupae and the mulberry bearing plant that the pupae feed on. Thus, the pupae and the plant has a symbolic relationship. This remarkable relationship demonstrates that on the evolutionary ladder, the multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase signaling system is primordial and vital for reproduction, and the kingdoms of plants, insects, and animals are bonded.
How did you establish this astounding fact?
This was settled during the years 1968-1969 in collaboration with Dr. E. Caspi's group at the Worcester Foundation of Experimental Biology, Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, and later independently, I demonstrated that the leaves of tea plant Camellia sinensis and Digitalis lanata and the isolated fascicular cells of the rat adrenal cortex generate the common reproductive hormone named progesterone. Notably, in both cases, this hormone is vital for reproduction. I did this by first developing multiple technical tools of doubly labeled tritium C14, mevalonic acid, thin layer chromatography, co-crystallization, and direct isolation of the plant products. I had perfected these tasks earlier used for the isolation of plant hormones, carotenoids. Notably, I performed these isotope labeling experiments on the tea plants grown on the balcony of our apartment in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, during my tenure at the Thomas J. Lipton Incorporated. Therefrom, the following evolutionary related intriguing conclusions were arrived. 1. The 250 million years old insect, plant, and animal kingdom are evolutionarily bonded through progesterone, the reproductive hormone. The bondage demonstrated that the life-sustaining vascular processes of mammals are almost identical to the plants. The sap of the plant containing xylem and flowing cells substitutes blood. The former drives its nutrients upward from the roots to the leaves and the later in the reverse order. Bondage also extends to a socially related explosive fact, birth control pill, negating the existing belief that the progesterone is biosynthesized according to the cyclic AMP signaling pathway. It was proven that the real pathway was multi-limbed membrane gauntlet signaling. To understand this topic, we enter the field of hormones.
Oh, it's a new term. Could you please explain what a hormone is?
The hormone is a regulatory agent generated in an organism's cell. It is then transported via the tissue fluid like plant sap or mammalian blood to a distant target cell. There it manifests its physiological activity.
Are the cyclic AMP and IP3 signaling system the universal signaling systems?
No, they are totally different structurally and functionally, yet relegated to their shadows. Multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclic cellular signaling pathway had slowly begun to rise into prominence and becoming an independent third hormonal signaling pathway. Its ascendance was, however, marked by unsurmounted hurdles.
It was marked by unsurmounted hurdles because what followed was a devious mind game. Dr. Rameshwar K. Sharma was at the pinnacle of his career. A pioneering scientist held the keys to a revolutionary discovery. His lab was thriving, his funding secure, his reputation was getting global and was generously funded with merit awards from numerous awarding agencies. Just then, he got an offer, and with that offer, a carefully laid trap to Cleveland Clinic Foundation. Dr. Sharma was offered a legacy position, a state-of-the-art facility, and a chance to build an empire. It was a perfect lure. His reputation, prestige, and success was the bait to secure a grant of billions of dollars for another, which he was unaware of. Once that was done, the promises made to him evaporated. The support turned to sabotage. This was not a mistake. It was a meticulously plotted theft. Chapter 2: The Hidden Conspiracy. In this chapter, Dr. Sharma speaks about how Cleveland Clinic Foundation played a mind game with him which is so devious and beyond imagination. And then a single fraudulent typo digitally planted by a corrupted colleague in his grant application to frame him for scientific misconduct.
Dr. Sharma, could you please quickly summarize the fateful events which you intend to present to us today?
This will be the factual narration of an evil saga that occurred between April 22, 1988 and August 6, 1993. A conspiratorial plot between an elite health foundation, 3 USA government agencies, and a congressman was constructed. A revolutionary distinguished professor of biochemistry and molecular biology for a subscript typo was falsely charged with the scientific misconduct. His professional life was ruined, yet to date, none of these agencies have accepted accountability.
Could you please give us a brief background for this saga?
Yes, academically, through the years 1973 to 1987, in the University of Tennessee, Center for the Health Sciences in Memphis, I had risen from the rank of Assistant Professor of Biochemistry to the tenured Distinguished Professor of Biochemistry and Physiology. I had a spacious laboratory of about 2,800 square feet, a scholarly research group of 16 representing multiple regions of the USA and of the world. I was generously funded with the merit awards from the Veterans Administration Hospital, 2 grants from National Institutes of Health, National Science Foundation, Damon Runyon Walter Winchell Cancer Fund, and multiple local agencies, including the local Cancer Society, amounting to about $3 million. I was hosting and being hosted by multiple prestigious universities and scientific organizations all over the world as a plenary speaker to explain the biochemical, physiological, and molecular properties of a newly funded 7-limbed cellular membrane gauntlet cyclase signal transcription pathway. Significantly, the limb 1 of the pathway controlled the processes of steroidogenesis, and every heartbeat regulated blood pressure, transducing the signals of the adrenocorticotropic hormone ACTH and of the atrial natriuretic factor ANF. Personally, I was happy. I owned my first home and a plot of 1-acre farm land in the scenic suburb of Memphis, Bartlett, and was raising my family with my sportive, beautiful wife, Joan. My wife, Joan, was a cancer survivor from the year 1985, diagnosed with breast carcinoma, yet was happily adjusting to the new lifestyle. All this changed when I moved to the Cleveland Clinic Foundation, Cleveland, Ohio.
Why did you move to Cleveland Clinic?
About late September 1987, I received a phone call from Dr. Mahesh Khosla, a senior member of the Brain and Vascular Research Department of the Cleveland Clinic Foundation. He was one of the audience at my 1996 plenary lecture in Santa Barbara, California, and wanted me to present our work on the newly discovered multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase cellular signaling pathway linked with heart and hypertension in the Cleveland Clinic. I delivered the lecture around October 1987. Subsequently, during dinner with his departmental staff, Dr. Carlos Amfradio, departmental head of the Brain and Vascular Research, inquired about the possibility of moving my research group to the Cleveland Clinic. Next day, A meeting was arranged where Dr. Bernardine Healy, the chief of the Cleveland Clinic Foundation Research Division, was present. I would be given the full staff title, and under my leadership, the Cleveland Clinic will create, equip, and fund the state of the art spacious unit of the regulatory biology. The unit will be autonomous, yet will collaborate and support research activities of not only the brain and vascular department, but also of the other Cleveland Clinic department. The same day, I met with the head of the Human Resources Department to discuss the financial benefits. First, I will receive 50% raise in my current salary at the University of Tennessee. Second, I will be provided all the benefits from the rewarding Cleveland Clinic tailored financial retirement and health packages without any of my contributions. And third, most important, I leave the legacy, laying foundation of a new learning center on the field of multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase signal transduction. This was a lucrative, adventurous offer. Significantly, at the same time, Dr. Ferrario's National Institute of Health funded program project grant was up for renewal. He was keen on the inclusion of our innovative studies on the multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase in this project. He considered the study revolutionary in changing the fields of heart and hypertension. Atrial natriuretic forward factor hormone secreted in the right atria of the heart through the multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase controlled every heartbeat changing blood pressure in the human. This was the nature-designed physiological mechanism that existed 250 million years ago in the insects and plants, and then transcending animals, bonding the three nature's kingdoms. After my arrival in Memphis, I decided to accept the Cleveland Clinic offer and looked forward to the move to Cleveland.
Given all the facts, I guess the move must have been very taxing.
Yes, a lot of hurdles had to be overcome. First, it dealt with the whole family, my wife Joan and the teenaged children. They were comfortably settled in the school they liked. Then it involved selling our house and farmland, where we went on the weekends to relax and enjoy. Second, it involved my laboratory that was fully funded and running at the peak of its scientific activity. Third, most importantly, it would affect the lives of the extremely competent, cohesive scholars that were the backbone of our research. On April 22, 1988, I relocated from the Department of Physiology, the Health Science Center, University of Tennessee, Memphis, to the Cleveland Clinic. The laboratory and majority of my staff moved to Cleveland in July 1988. Notably, from my gift fund that I left behind, Dr. Jaiswal was paid to support his family and to raise the polyclonal rabbit antibodies against protein kinase C, a part of the multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase project.
You were promised a lot. Did all the promises come true?
Almost all the commitments made by the Cleveland Clinic were negated. The laboratory was half the space I occupied in Memphis. In contrast to Memphis, it was located in the basement with no outside view. And on December 27, 1989, when confronted, Dr. Ferrario instructs his administrator, Mr. Murray, to withdraw even the minimal departmental support to the section of regulatory biology. On April 2, 1990, accompanied by his administrators, Dr. Baer and Mr. Murray, Dr. Ferrario puts me and my wife Joan on notice. No reason stated. Without any financial reward, Joan was helping me in my office work
mostly typing my papers and grants. Similarly, on April 13, 1990, Dr. Ferriero threatens me saying, I will hold no punches in getting you if you cross me. Thereby, Dr. Ferriero not only used my academic credentials in the reward of his program project grant, he also threatened and defamed me professionally. Given the facts that the administrators, Mr. Baer and Mr. Murray, represented the Cleveland Clinic Research Division administration, I felt lost and suspected that there was a conspiracy. The Cleveland Clinic got what it needed. I was now expendable. On June 12, 1990, a meeting was held in the office of the Cleveland Clinic Professional Staff Affairs. Present were its key administrators. At the meeting, Dr. Stephan informed me that on the recommendation of Dr. Ferriero, my contract would not be renewed. Also gone was the beneficial Cleveland Clinic Foundation tailored retirement contract. Stunned, I just murmured, without due process. It was a fatal blow. The Cleveland Clinic had ruined me, professionally and financially. Instantly, I have become homeless. Significantly, upon joining Cleveland Clinic Foundation, I had cancelled my University of Tennessee retirement plans of TIAA and CREF. Now I had no financial security. The future that once kindled was no more. I was blemished and never recovered. I thought all what I achieved after leaving India and my parents in the 1960s, my tenured professorship and bright academic future at the University of Tennessee has vanished. My wife was just recovering from cancer. She was rearranging a new house bought in the scenic suburb of Cleveland, Solon. The children were only beginning to adjust in the new school. Similarly, I felt that I had let my research team fellows down. How would I deal with them? Now they will have to carve their own way.
When did you know that there was an orchestrated conspiracy behind this action?
The complete factual details emerged only on December 21, 1992, upon receiving a faxed copy of the letter from Miss Herman, a journalist of the Washington Post. Yet, I had a feeling about that in bits and pieces.
Would you elaborate, please?
The complete true picture emerged only in 1993 when several US government documents, 4 appendices to the confidential reports of OSIR and the appeals court decision of Dr. Rameshwar K. Sharma versus USA, DAB number 1431, 1993. The documents demonstrate that close alliance existed between the Cleveland Clinic Foundation, 3 federal USA government agencies, Office of Scientific Integrity Review, and Office of Research Integrity, with the objective to successfully renew his National Institute of Health Program Project grant and then steal the multi-limbed membrane guanylate cyclase cellular signal transduction pathway project. Dr. Ferriero ignites a cunning plot in which the administration of the Cleveland Clinic becomes a co-conspirator. Dr. Ferriero acts through 2 of my research team members, Drs. Stephan Chalberg and Ramakant Jaswal. He bribes them with a promise to move to his department and advance professionally. 3 are my NIH grants, 2 funded and 1 unfunded, and another funded NSF grant are made available by Dr. Ferriero to Drs. Chalberg and Jaiswal, violating their material confidentiality. Extraordinarily, Dr. Chalberg is provided a computer code for my office. There he forges a subscript typographical error in one or all of the applications. This subscript typographical error is then used by Dr. Ferriero to charge me for the scientific misconduct. Similarly, Dr. Jaiswal is made to find a fake statement in the grants about my possession of an antibody that I did not have. The fact is, he lied. It was his duty to make the antibody, and he had made the antibody. On May 8, 1990, through these false allegations, Dr. Ferriero charged me for the scientific misconduct to the Cleveland Clinic Foundation administration. It triggered this evil act. On June 12, 1990, the Cleveland Clinic Foundation Administrative Director, Dr. Straffen, in the presence and after consultation with the administrative staff that includes Dr. Ferriero, fires me for the subscript typo error and non-possession of the protein kinase antibody.
As painful as it has to be, could you please recount the events?
In an extraordinary, bizarre action, after June 12, 1990, the Cleveland Clinic Foundation continues its scientific misconduct investigations. All 4 applications, it only found the subscript typo error and concluded no scientific misconduct. Yet, it did neither revoke the termination nor cleared my reputation. As the consequences, an innocent man, including his family, were irreparably damaged. Also, progress of the revolutionary discovery of the single life-sustaining molecule, multi-limbed membrane glomerular cyclase, was delayed. To date, the unanswered issue is why this saga did not finish with the Cleveland Clinic Foundation action. Was it to inflict more pain on me?
He was fired, his reputation destroyed. So why didn't it end? Scientific misconduct is a cardinal sin. Fabrication, falsification, plagiarism, the gravest charge a researcher can face. Yet, why was a broken man dragged before a congressional committee and charged again and again for a single typo he didn't even commit? Because his case was no longer about error. It was about setting an example. A powerful congressman, John Dingell, seized the machinery of the US government to stage a public execution of a career to prove that no scientist, however brilliant, was beyond his reach. How far would they go to bury one man? And how did he, from the ruins of his life, fight back? Chapter 3. The Conspirator, John Dingell. In this chapter, Dr. Sharma speaks about how a trap was set for him by Democrat Congressman John Dingell, who was ready to go to any lengths to see that Dr. Sharma is framed, and how Dr. Sharma proved his innocence.
Dr. Sharma, could you please tell us what happened to you after Cleveland Clinic terminated your position?
Enter Congressman John Dingell as a pivotal player. On October 31, 1990, the Cleveland Clinic sent their commission report to the NIH Office of Scientific Integrity. I was not provided a copy of the report, thus I was not afforded the possibility to comment on it. The report found no misconduct on my part. The Cleveland Clinic Commission erased the tape recording of the minutes supposedly that we so want to do everything possible to help you, Dr. Sharma, recover the interruption of this investigation. The lingering issues, however, are: first, why did the Cleveland Clinic continue the misconduct investigation after June 12, 1990, the day my position has been terminated. Second, why did Cleveland Clinic not help me as promised to recover the interruption by this investigation? Now the core point centers with the Congressman John Dingell. On November 3, 1990, the OSI received the Commission of Investigation report of the Cleveland Clinic. Although the report had concluded that there was no misconduct on December 1990, OSI decides to reinvestigate me for the scientific misconduct. Why? I had already been and remained punished. Was it to inflict more torture? About May 1991, OSI concludes that I am guilty of scientific misconduct. For what? The subscript typo and the antibody, both lies? Finally, on July 91, OSI transfers the case to the Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigation of the House Energy and Commerce Committee.
Who was chairing the subcommittee and what was the basis for the case to be transferred to them?
The chairman of the Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee was Congressman John Dingell. Mr. Dingell was one of the most powerful Democrats in the Congress. His burning passion was to be a watchdog, tormentor of fraud and abuse. His subcommittee had its own squad of investigators. Mr. Dingell took passionate interest in the Sharma investigation. One of his solo objectives was to ruin me professionally and financially. It was supposed to set an example for other scientists, that they are being watched for their misdeeds. For this, he made many traps. One occurring on August 1, 1991 is illustrative. Mr. Dingell, with his two squad people from the Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee, confronted NIH Director Dr. Healy, her boss, her deputy, and her legal counsel. Under oath, he asked her to respond about Ramesh Sharma's typo at the Cleveland Clinic. To punish me, Mr. Dingell schemes through NIH committees OSI, OSIR, and ORI. For this, he selectively chooses his resemblance, Miss Susan Hadley, an administrator in OSI. Miss Hadley pursues Mr. Dingell's passion. She informs me about Mr. Dingell's decision. On October 31, 1990, Miss Hadley inquired the Cleveland Clinic's Commission of Investigation about the details of the Sharma investigation. She was told that it is the unanimous decision of the Commission of Investigation that Dr. R. Sharma be exonerated from the allegation of scientific misconduct. Despite this clear-cut exoneration, on November 21, 1990, ignoring the Commission's decision, Ms. Hadley wrote me a letter on behalf of OSI. Its reference is 90-34. Stating that your name has been entered in the PHS alert system because you are the subject of an investigation of possible scientific misconduct conducted by the Cleveland Clinic Foundation. Your name will remain in the alert system until a determination is made by the Public Health Service about possible scientific misconduct on your part. The statement was a misrepresentation of the facts. Following Ms. Hadley's footsteps, on May 21, 1991, Dr. Clyde Watkins, acting Deputy Director of OSI, sent me a letter and the draft report according to which I was found guilty of scientific misconduct. I responded to Dr. Watkins' letter and the draft report on June 18, 1991, providing him with 5 attachments. Significantly, I pointed out the possible conspiracy between OSI and Cleveland Clinic aimed at hurting me. Specifically, in my response to OSI, I pointed out that my office computer has been compromised and that Dr. Chalberg confessed entering my office and copying my grant application on his disk. On July 31, 1991, Dr. Kamal K. Mittal, senior scientist at OSI, sent me a letter acknowledging receipt of my June 18, 1991 response to the letter and draft of Dr. Watkins. And on August 14, 1991, I was informed through Dr. Mittal's letter that OSI has decided to conduct a site visit, and a new team of 3 expert scientific advisors will be conducting the site visit. For the OSI site visit in Cleveland Clinic, I requested Mr. Ron Tony Dandel, Esquire, to be present to me as my attorney. Notably, in April 1991, Dr. Healy had assumed directorship of NIH. One extraordinary act to her legacy is that she was instrumental in enacting the judicial due appeal process in Congress for the scientists charged with scientific misconduct.
What was the outcome of the OSI investigators' visit in Cleveland and interview?
On October 30, 1991, Dr. Lyle Bivens, Director of the Office of Scientific Integrity Review, wrote me a letter stating that the case was transferred by the Assistant Secretary of Health to permit Bernardine T. Healy, MD, Director of the National Institutes of Health, to resume her responsibilities related to the handling of misconduct in science cases by USI. Although the Bivens letter did not spell it out, it indicated that my case was no longer in the custody of OSI, but was in hands of OSIR.
It was strangely sudden change. Do you have any idea or suspicion what was behind the motive for this change?
2 significant points have to be made regarding this matter. OSI was no longer capable of handling my case, and it was Dr. Healy's presence in NIH that impacted the change from OSI to the Office of Scientific Integrity Review, OSIR. This change has brought a total turnaround in the conclusions of the investigation. OSIR found no misconduct and recommended my exoneration. Yet, the Office of Research Integrity, ORI, in the final decision retained the charge of my scientific misconduct and defended this charge in the United States Appeals Board.
It's getting more and more confusing. Changes from one NIH agency to another. One exonerates you, one finds you guilty. How was it possible?
It is critical to remember that OSIR resided in the domain of Mr. Dingle Oversight Subcommittee when this action took place, and a few events deserve attention. Assumingly, our house in Solon has been tapped by FBI, as we have noticed activity around it where the digging occurred. At the same time, we were constantly harassed by suspicious phone calls. At the end, we had to change our home phone to an unlisted number.
It is becoming almost a suspense story. What was the follow-up?
On November 7, 1991, Dr. Lawrence Rhodes, Deputy Director of OSIR, wrote me a letter setting the date of January 21 to 23, 1992 for the OSIR investigators and expert scientists visit at the Cleveland Clinic. Please remember, at that time I had no connection with the Cleveland Clinic. I was no longer an employee of Cleveland Clinic. My office and laboratory has been closed, and I was hunting for a job to support my family.
What was the outcome of the January 1992 site visit in Cleveland Clinic?
On February 28, 1992, I received a phone call from Dr. Rhodes from OSIR that I have been exonerated from scientific misconduct.
I would guess that after so many ups and downs and turns, you were finally over.
At that time, I thought so. On April 6 and April 23, 1992, I received 2 successive confidential draft reports from OSIR. Both exonerated me from scientific misconduct.
Hooray!
Not so fast. The relief was very short-lived. On May 20, 1992, I was forced to meet again the OSIIR investigators headed by Dr. Rhodes at the Cleveland Clinic Airport hotel room. With Mr. Tony Dandel as my attorney present, I was aggressively grilled by the committee. They began to ask me dreadful questions and then threatened me. In this course, I happened to observe the cover page of the document they had given me to sign that the date was wrong by a year. In the summary of charges against me over a typo, they had made a typo. The absurdity of it all made me jab the table in anger. The drinking water in the glass tumbled and scattered all over the table. I said, "You yourself have done a mistake." My attorney even did not notice it, but I did. So I said, "Now you yourself have done a mistake here. You have put a wrong here. 1 year wrong. You can do a mistake, and you are trying to rake me over the coals with one typographical subscript error." They did not answer me, and then they left. On July 28, 1992, I received a FedEx letter from Dr. Rhodes stating that ORI final report concludes that I am guilty of scientific misconduct. In the context of the final report conclusion, particularly informative is the fact that Mr. John Dingle wrote a letter to Dr. Michael McGuinness, acting director of ORI, stating, "Thank you for your prompt response to the recent request of the Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations of the Committee on Energy and Commerce for a copy of the report of the Office of Research Integrity of Misconduct in Science. Allegations found at the Cleveland Clinic Foundation." As you know, the subcommittee held a hearing on the Cleveland Clinic Foundation case in August of 1991 and has maintained an active interest in the matter. Thus, we read the ORI report with great interest, particularly as it bears on matters on which sworn testimony was taken at the hearing.
It is incredible that the US congressman who was supposed to enforce the law acted against you. How it was possible? What did you do next?
On August 1, 1992, I contacted Mr. Jonek, the attorney in Crowell and Mooring firm, for a presentation in connection with the ORI investigation. On August 12, 1992, Crowell and Mooring and I agreed and signed the items of representation. Mr. Onek and Charo would represent me pro bono. I would be responsible for the administrative costs. At the end, the costs amounted to about $96,000. On October 8, 1992, Mr. Onek and Mr. Charo sent a letter on my behalf to Mr. Rhodes from ORI responding to the July 28, 1992 final report. On November 24, 1992, Dr. Michael McGuinness, acting director of ORI, sent me a letter and copy of the Cleveland Clinic Foundation case final report with exhibits stating that this is to notify you that United States Department of Health and Human Services Office of Research Integrity has made findings of scientific misconduct against you. If you wish to repeal the findings and propose administrative actions, you may request a hearing before a research adjudications panel operated by the Departmental Appeals Board. This request must be made within 30 days of receipt of this letter. Notably, one of the exhibits of Dr. McGuinness' letter was an admission of Dr. Chalver to ORI that he had a copy of my NIH application saved on his disk. It was the application I was charged for subscript typo error misconduct. I was shocked by this information, as it was the first time I was aware of this fact. I also learned from the McGuinness letter that OSIR checked with Dr. Mujumdar, former member of my research team in Memphis, Tennessee, and that she confirmed that Dr. Jaiswal had made the protein kinase C antibody under her supervision. On December 26, 1992, Mr. Onek, on my behalf, appealed to the appeals board the findings of the number 11th and 24, 1992 final report.
So now hopefully the time came that you would be able to defend yourself in front of unbiased panel.
The appeal hearing before the Research Integrity Education Panel operated by the Departmental Appeals Board took place in Washington, D.C. on May 13, 14, 17, 18, and 19, 1993. Mr. Onik and Mr. Charo represented me during the hearing.
What was the decision of the appeals board?
On August 6, 1993, I received the appeals board decision which exonerated me of any wrongdoing.
Does it mean that finally you got the justice?
After the verdict, Mr. Onik made a remarkable statement. How did the OSI investigators have the freedom to run amok, to spend years investigating typos? Curiously, before the appeals board decision, almost 7 months before, December 29, 1992, Washington Post and the Cleveland Plain Dealer newspapers published the same article by Robin Herman, probe of NIH Cleveland Clinic affair ending. In its final report of the affair, the Public Health Service Office of Research Integrity has found the Healy's previous employer, the Cleveland Clinic Foundation, mishandled its investigation of allegation that a researcher had falsified statements on a grant application to NIH. Healy was head of research at the Cleveland Clinic just before coming to the NIH in 1991 and conducted the clinic's misconduct inquiry. The ORI also found scientific misconduct by the researcher. Given the facts that I had no job from June 12, 1990, and the Cleveland Clinic Foundation, OSIR, and ORI investigation continued beyond that date, I had started to look even for a temporary position elsewhere. In this pursuit, leaving my family in Cleveland, I stay in a college dormitory in Philadelphia from February 1, 1992 onwards with no telephone. Joan and Sonia leave Cleveland for Philadelphia on July 28, 1992, and Sonia loses 1 year of college education in the move. Harry stays behind to go to school in Cleveland, staying at multiple places in his friends' houses. Subsequently, he never again lived with his parents and lost his parental and sisterly love. During this time, my father in India died in 1992. I was unable to be in his funeral religious ceremony. Brahman, Hindu, a moral duty for the only son to be there. This fills me with many regrets and brings me much sadness to recall. Mr. Charo summarized the absurdity of the accusations against me in a poem. It goes as, one fine morning in the middle of the night, two dead boys got up to fight. Back to back, they faced each other, drew their swords and shot each other. A deaf policeman heard the noise and came and shot those two dead boys. If you do not believe my tale is true, ask the blind man, he saw it too.
Dr. Sharma had survived the conspiracy. He had won his name back in the historic court battle. But for Dr. Sharma, the real victory was always about science. The truth of the discovery they tried to bury. An idea so powerful, it would challenge the very foundations of biology of his time. This is the story of the first piece of the puzzle that begins with a bold evolutionary concept, a risky cross-country move, and a question so simple, yet so heretical, that it would invite ridicule from Nobel laureate. How does a life-sustaining molecule from the brain control the body's most vital functions? The answer was waiting, not in a prestigious lab, but in a modest VA hospital, where one man's unwavering belief would start a 54-year quest to illuminate the very machinery of life. Chapter 4: The Universal Evolutionary Concept. In this chapter, Dr. Sharma tells us how he got the idea of his discovery and how plants, insects, and mammals are bonded together, which he named the evolutionary concept.
Could you please elaborate why the discovery of the membrane gauntlet cycles was so important in understanding cell biology and signal transduction processes?
Multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cycles molecule existed 250 million years ago. The internetted limbs throughout the central, sympathetic and parasympathetic systems define their physiology. They generate common hormonal signal messenger, cyclic GMP, proving that cyclic GMP function as a cellular second messenger challenged the two dogmas existing at the time. First, there was a question of independent existence of this multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclist pathway that was different from its previously known heme-dependent soluble form. Second, the only known hormonal cellular signal pathway were those of cyclic AMP and IP3. Structurally, both pathways were three-component transduction systems modulated by GTP binding proteins. That's the key question which we asked was, did a one-component transduction system, multi-limbed membrane gauntlet cyclase that generates cyclic GMP as a second messenger indeed exist for the polypeptide hormone adrenocorticotropic hormone ACTH. ACTH triggers the signal from the membrane gauntlet cyclic molecule, generates cyclic GMP, and converts and controls the process of steroidogenesis.
Did you find the answer to the question, is cyclic GMP indeed the second messenger of ACTH?
Yes, we did. It constitutes limb 1 of the membrane gauntlet cyclase molecule, yet this limb does not exist in the plant and the insect kingdoms of the universe. Nonetheless, the three kingdoms of plants, insects, and mammals are bonded because they all generate steroid hormones. This idea originated during the years 1967 and 1968. At that time, as a steroid training fellow in the Worcester Foundation for Experimental Biology, I demonstrated that in the stereochemical pathway of plants and in mammals, and we used models of rats, transformation of mevalonic to cholesterol occurs by almost identical manners. Both generate progesterone hormone. Empowered with this knowledge, in 1969, I independently tested and confirmed the idea in our house in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, using tea plant Camellia sinensis. The evolutionary concept arose that the nature's three kingdoms, plants, insects, and animals, are bonded and generate hormone progesterone, and this progesterone is involved in reproduction. In April 1969, I presented this concept during the annual meeting of the Federation of American Scientists Experimental Biology, FASB, held in Atlantic City. At that time, all affiliated societies of FASB met at the same time and the same place. In the presentation, I emphasized this novel common theme as evolutionary concept. That is, that plant, insects, and animal kingdoms are bonded together.
How this novel concept was received by your peers?
The concept received a rousing applause from the conference attendees. Influenced by it, Dr. Abbas Kitabchi, one of the attendees in the conference, introduced himself to me. He asked me if I would be interested in developing the proposed concept in the VA Hospital Research Division. If I agree, he would like me to direct the steroid research group at VA Hospital, and I will have an affiliated position of associate professor in the Department of Biochemistry in the University of Tennessee Health Sciences.
It was obviously very appealing offer. What was your answer to Dr. Kibachi? Did it take you a long time to make a decision?
Around the first week of May, Dr. Kitabchi called me and invited me to present a seminar on my research in the Department of Biochemistry, University of Tennessee Medical Units in Memphis. I agreed to do so. On the mutually agreed date, in the second week of May 1969, I flew to Memphis, reached there at about noon, was welcomed at the airport by Dr. Kitabchi, and lodged in the famous Peabody Memphis Hotel. The rest of the day I spent with Dr. Kitabchi, who showed me the research division of the VA hospital, introduced me to its key research members. The visit was followed by meeting Dr. William Byrne, the chairman of the Department of Biochemistry. Next day, I delivered the seminar at 9 a.m. It was well attended by the in-house biochemistry faculty and staff. The seminar lasted about 1/2 an hour and included my presentation and also the questions and answers. The seminar was well received. I flew back to the Newark airport and reached home, where Joan was happily waiting for my return. I discussed Dr. Kitabchi's offer with her. She responded that the offer was attractive and Memphis was a desirable place to settle. I informed to Dr. Kitabchi my decision to accept by phone.
So you decided to again join the academia to further your research. Obviously, a new part of your life was about to begin.
Yes, that's right. About the middle of December, I received a phone call from a realtor from Memphis. He was contacted by Dr. Kitabchi's office to help us relocate to Memphis. By the third week of December, he had identified a few houses in the Bartlett locality. Around the third week of December 1969, Joan and I packed our bare necessity items in our recently bought Buick Skylark car. The remainder were professionally handled by a moving company to be warehoused in Memphis till the purchase of our new house. We purchased a house address 2827 Flowerwood Road, Memphis, Tennessee 38134, with a 2-car garage containing a serene environment. It had spacious backyard. It was quite close, only 10 miles from my workplace in the Memphis Medical Units, the place our future children would start their education.
It looks that on the last day of 1969, you were settled well in Memphis and rank on the new year 1970, ready to start your new professional adventure.
It was exactly this. In the first week of January 1970, I reported Dr. Abbas Kitabchi. I was now the director of the steroid biochemistry course, core laboratory, equipped with standard equipment. There were 2 desks to sit for analyzing and calibrating the experimental data. I was introduced to Mrs. Louise Kitchell, who would work under my supervision. I was then shown a 400 square feet office space for my use. An additional about 400 square feet laboratory would be remodeled and would be provided to me. The condition was that I'll be free to test my universal evolutionary concept if I can secure extramural support for the guidance of future graduate or postdoctoral fellows. They will be the pioneers of my envisioned research program, elucidation of the control mechanism of the hormones at the submolecular level. Here my concept will be the driving force for my future research program. This basic research will be a central component of my academic position in the Department of Biochemistry. Meeting with the departmental chairman, William Byrne, it was decided that additionally I'll be teaching and will be the course director of the steroid biochemistry offered to the medical students of the University of Tennessee. Steroid biochemistry was one of the divisional research components of the Veterans Administration Medical Center. Other was endocrine and metabolism, diabetes, infectious diseases, electron microscopy, and dermatology. All these divisions in turn were administratively headed by Dr. Kitabchi. I spent time in writing and submitting my pending manuscripts and also bore on preliminary experiment data to find deeper biochemical relationship between the kingdoms of plants, insects, and vertebrate animals. I published 3 manuscripts on the concept. I was ready to apply to the basic research department of the VA hospital for funding. I intended to propose elucidation of the molecular mechanism by which the pituitary gland meets the fasciculator cells and controls its cortisol production. The notable property of the model was that it would not be applicable to the prawn kingdom because it does not embody the ACTH limb. And it would provide me the opportunity to enter the new field of endocrinology where unanswered questions remain. I therefore wrote 2 small Veterans Administration Part 1 and Part 2 grant applications to financially support the testing of my ACTH model. Both applications were rated highly meritorious and were funded within 3 months. The Veterans Administration Research Committee also awarded me with 2 commendation certificates accompanying their awards. I had now grown into a significant basic science and clinical investigator in the Veterans Hospital. Until then, these studies were being carried out on the shoestring budget. I was alone, had no technical help and financial resources to move them forward. These 2 Veterans Administration Part 1 and Part 2 grants and their ratings as highly meritorious had now provided me the opportunity to go forward with the model.
At that time, the future looked really bright and promising to you. Did you think at that moment that it is the hour of your life, that the dreams of your boyhood were about to come true?
Yes, I had this feeling. The success was dazzling, and I could clearly remember the overwhelming emotion that I will be able to follow the scientific path imagined in my childhood. I was born on December 15, 1935 at about midnight with the union of my father, Dr. Anantram Sharma, and my mother, Vidya Sharma. I was born in the Jammu and Kashmir Dogra Battalion Hospital, Satwari, Jammu Tawi. Notably, at the time India was a British territory, I recall going to the roof of our house and shouting, "Quit India!" In panic, my mother locked me in the closet because it was a criminal act by the British Empire.
Obviously, you have had a lot of important memories to be nostalgic about. But back to reality. How did your research progress?
After receiving VA Hospital Basic Research Funds amounting to $45,000 a year, I started to build my research group. Mrs. Linda Sutcliffe was the first member of my group. She joined as a full-time technician. I built this research group consisting of 32 fellows. After 54 years established existence of the multi-limbed membrane guanine cyclocellular signal protection pathway, without it the universe will be dark and lifeless.
He was a boy who shouted, "Quit India" from rooftops, dreaming of a life in science. He became the distinguished professor who discovered a key to life itself. In between lay a battle that would define him. This is the final chapter, a journey of turmoil and glory, where professional jealousy and political sabotage met unyielding perseverance, a testament to the belief that while institutions can fail and men can conspire, the truth, once discovered, is indestructible. This is the story of how one man, against all odds, ensured that the light of his life-sustaining molecule would never be extinguished. Chapter 5. The task is complete. In this chapter, Dr. Sharma speaks about how he managed to complete the mammoth task, the discovery of the molecule.
Dr. Sharma said after receiving two Veterans Affairs Hospital grants, you were able to build your own research program and your research group as independent research program. Could you please tell us about the beginning?
Yes, Mrs. Linda Sutcliffe was the first member of my group. She joined as a full-time technician with the degree of Bachelor in Science from the University of Georgia. In the beginning, she chiefly helped me to do day-to-day experiments. Then she quickly progressed. She became an extremely valuable asset, and I was happy to have her assist me. My research advanced significantly, resulting in 3 major scientific publications. In line with my vision and official duties to develop a research program centered on the theme of elucidation of the control mechanisms of the hormones at the submolecular level, I chose to investigate the action of the adrenocorticotropic hormone, abbreviated as ACTH, a polypeptide structure. In contrast to the steroid hormones secreted in the pituitary gland, ACTH, by targeting adrenal glands, controls the production of another hormone, cortisol in animals and corticosterone in lower animals, rat. Cortisol is a key element in responding to stress, fighting infection, and maintaining blood pressure. It is generated by the fascicular cells, thereby pituitary gland and adrenal gland bond.
Why did you choose this model to enter the field of hormones?
It was for 4 reasons. 1, it was a basic science problem, yet had a direct clinical relevance. 2, it was in line with my prior experience with the plant steroids. The envisioned hypothesis was that the pivotal molecule in both was the biosynthesis of cholesterol. Yet, in animals only, ACTH is active because plants do not embody the pituitary gland. 3. Clinical steroid biochemistry core laboratory was already and routinely involved in testing the levels of ACTH in the patients. And finally, the 4th, VA hospital chief was highly supportive of this choice and wanted my help in his clinical application of this research. This course satisfactorily fulfilled my official duties both in the VA hospital and in the basic biochemistry department. Yet I had to raise the funds for my basic research. In sequential many steps, the foundation of the ACTH modulated steroid hormone research project started to shape. Its accomplishment was the historic scientific event in the generation of the cellular signal transduction field. The field demonstrated that the ongoing dogma of the cyclic AMP being the universal hormonal second messenger is flawed. Consequently, the prevailing thought was so intent that the sole mechanism by which all hormones exhibit their physiological activity is via their common second messenger, cyclic AMP. This meant that structurally the 3-component GTP binding protein was the trigger of the ACTH modulated transformation of the cholesterol to corticosteroid synthesis by the fasciculator cells in the adrenal gland. Notably, at the time, this possibility was not even remotely considered. Thus, it was a game-changing concept. Retrospectively, it constituted a major event in the symposium held in the Second World Congress on Biologically Active Peptides, Waldorf Astoria, New York, on May 17 to 21, 1987, where I was the plenary speaker.
Thus, you wanted to verify proof or disprove whether cyclic AMP has a role in ACTH signaling. How did you approach this goal experimentally?
Sequentially, we demonstrated 1. The dogma is not applicable to the ACTH modulated steroidogenesis in the fasciculator cell of the adrenal gland, and 2. Further showed that there the strong possibility exists for the cyclic GMP to be the physiological mediator. This task was successfully completed from the year 1971 to 1973. Then the financial resources started to pour in and continued into the year 1974 and then peaked to the year 2023 when the task was brought to completion. The task begins. The first critical question was, is cyclic AMP the physiological second messenger of ACTH? It necessitated the development of new technology. Paramount was the bioassay that detects the physiological concentration 0.5 to 10 microunit of ACTH in the human plasma. Second, the isolated system of the fasciculator cells. The animal model was rat. Both tasks were accomplished as follows. The adrenal gland was treated with trypsin to selectively remove its zona glomerulosa and zona reticulosa, yielding the sole region of fasciculator. This in turn served as a source of the pure isolated cells used in the experiments. The cells were physiologically pure, solely synthesizing corticosterone, the counterpart of the human cortisol, in response to as little as 0.5 microunit of ACTH. Conspicuously, there was a small lag period in kicking on the response to ACTH, demonstrating the auxiliary role of a labile factor. The factor was a protein because its inhibitor cycloheximate and not actinomycin blocked the lag. Demonstrating specificity, these fasciculator cells did not respond to other polypeptide hormones like insulin, growth hormone, proinsulin, glucagon, and epinephrine. In further affirmation, 1. There was a linear relationship between the number of cells, 50 to 400,000, and steroidogenic response to ACTH. Number 2. In time dependency, 0 to 180 minute interval, the maximal physiological concentration of ACTH, 50 microunits, generated corticosterone production in a linear fashion between 6 and 180 minutes. Number 3. A definite short lag period, 6 minutes, occurred before the commencement of the linearity in steroidogenesis, a repeatable phenomena with as low as 5 microunit concentration of ACTH. The physiological purity of the cells was matched with their morphological integrity. The light and electron microscopic analysis demonstrated that the cells embodied the typical fasciculator cell attributes, a vascular mitochondria, the excessive cellular content of lipid globules, endoplasmocrine, a secretion of lipid globules, together with the smooth surface endoplasmic reticulum, all characteristics of the pure fasciculator cell.
It's amazingly impressive that you were able to develop these delicate technologies tools with this rat model. Were they applicable to human model as well?
Yes. The applicability of the isolated fasciculator cell assay system in a human study established that the plasma ACTH level in the fasting normal subjects is 2 microunits plus minus 0.1 microunit. The value increases about 6-fold when the generation of cortisol is blocked Thus, we had an extra sensitive and historical tool in our possession who now could detect the physiological concentration of ACTH, and these could be used in vitro constitution studies for direct elucidation of the molecular mechanism through which ACTH controls the steroid hormone cortisol. In turn, we are now well positioned to systematically define the ACTH-dependent physiological process of stress, fighting infection, and maintaining blood pressure. This was a critical technological advancement to understanding the disease processes of stress and how to conquer them. In addition, and importantly, we could apply this knowledge to understanding abnormalities in the 494 endocortical carcinoma cells of rat. These had recently been developed in our laboratory, and later the patent was awarded to me in the University of Tennessee for the detection of this cancer in the patients. Cognizant with the prevailing concept that all hormonal actions occur through the cyclic AMP second messenger system, before the year 2002, this possibility was also considered in our studies. If applicable, the transformation of the ACTH signal into the production of the steroid hormones would be a three-component system consisting of the receptor, the G protein, and the adenylyl cyclase. Structurally, the adenylyl cyclase is composed of two cytoplasmic domains and two membrane-spanning domains, each of which contains 6 transmembrane strands. As will become clear, this was not the case. Thus, the ACTH hormonal signal transduction system was unique physiologically, biochemically, and molecularly. Notably, this conclusion was arrived at through experiments that were conducted under conditions that were almost identical to the physiological conditions. The 500,000 fasciculata cells representing one rat adrenal gland or its counterpart, the adenocortical carcinoma 494, were used in the reconstitution studies. The findings of these were unique as follows. ACTH stimulates the biosynthetic step of steroidogenesis from the 20S20 hydroxycholesterol. This step is dependent on protein synthesis and is rate limiting. Yet the cyclic AMP does not mimic this stimulatory action of ACTH. Thus, cyclic AMP is not the physiological second messenger of ACTH, as was thought previously. This negated and challenged the universality of the cyclic AMP second messenger concept. Accordingly, in an important advancement to the hormonal cancer field, ACTH in the carcinoma cells inhibits steroidogenesis, yet cyclic AMP does not. In a bell-shaped curve, the physiological concentration of ACTH does not raise the level of cyclic AMP but does stimulate steroidogenesis. Notably, in another remarkable finding, ACTH stimulates the peak synthesis of cyclic AMP with a concomitant rise in corticosterone. Thus, it was clear that cyclic GMP, not the cyclic AMP, is the physiological mediator of the ACTH hormone. This was the beginning of a new cell signaling transduction pathway. Taken together, these studies established that the physiological second messenger of ACTH is a cyclic GMP, thus negating the concept that cyclic AMP is a universal second messenger hormonal action.
These achievements are indeed admirable, not only to the hormonal field of ACTH signaling and ACTH-mediated steroidogenesis, but also are applicable in general to understanding of cancer, starting a new era of signaling pathway where membrane-bonded cyclic generated cyclic GMP is a vital component. Would you please elaborate more on this subject?
Yes. Systematically, guided by the template, we started to define morphological and molecular attributes of the isolated fasciculata cell and use it to deepen our understanding in the biochemistry of the ACTH-dependent hormonal steroidogenic system, and notably began to pursue in defining the membrane guanylate cyclase cellular signal transduction pathway at the molecular and physiological terms. Summary of the concluded results is the light and electron microscopic analysis demonstrated that the isolated fascicular cells were morphologically pure. Accordingly, there was a linear relationship between the number of cells, 50 to 400,000, and steroidogenic response to ACTH. 2. The time dependency study showed that in 0 to 180 minute time interval, the maximum physiological concentration of ACTH, 50 microunits, generated corticosterone production in a linear fashion between 5 to 180 minutes. Number 3, notably, there was a definite short lag period, about 60 minutes, before commencement of the linearity in steroidogenesis. This phenomenon was repeatable with 5 microunits of ACTH. This event combined with the fact that number 5, cyclohexabate yet not actinomycin D inhibited ACTH-dependent steroidogenesis indicated that ACTH targeted fascicular cell via labile synthesis of a protein molecule.
That you also did experiment with the isolated adrenocortical carcinoma 494 cell line. How did these two completely different cell lines help you in achieving your overall goal?
To apply this basic knowledge of the phenotypic characteristic of the fasciculata cell, its changes accompanying its transformation to the cancer cell adenocortical carcinoma were assessed. Adenocortical carcinoma is destructive cancer. It originates in the cortex of the adrenal gland and generates excessively high levels of cortisol or corticosterone independent of ACTH. Thus, no loss of an ACTH-dependent control mechanism of the production of the corticosteroid. At this stage of my research, I had begun to develop a research program, and following my passion to decode the basic principles involved in the process of ACTH-dependent steroidogenesis, I made an entry into cancer research and moved fully to the Department of Biochemistry in the University of Tennessee, Memphis. What morphological and biochemical changes accompany transformation of the rat adenocortical fascicular cell to the rat adenocortical carcinoma cell? I first developed an isolated adenocortical carcinoma 494 cell system that was parallel to the isolated fasciculata cell system of the adrenal cortex. The technology used in creating the two types of cell systems was identical, and so were the experimental conditions. The authenticity of the transformation of pregnenolone to corticosterone was assessed by the techniques of double isotope labeling, tritium to C14 ratio, and co-crystallization, established prior for plant carcinolites. Ultrastructural analysis demonstrated that the isolated carcinoma cell, in a striking difference from the normal fasciculata cell, shows sparsity of lipid granules and mitochondria. Additionally, normal morphological features of the fasciculata cell were missing or deformed. Biochemical analysis disclosed that in contrast to the normal, cancer cell is unresponsive to the stimuli of ACTH, yet the direct fluoroscopic and double isotopic studies with tritium-C14 demonstrated the metabolic pathway from mevalonic acid to cholesterol. The formation of steroid hormone corticosterone was intact in both the normal and cancer cells. Given these facts and others that the carcinoma cell generates successively high levels of cortisol or corticosterone independent of ACTH, established that the process of carcinogenesis has created a new pathway. Therein, a lesion in the pituitary adrenal axis occurs. The lesion creates a loss of cortisol ACTH feedback loop. Thus, this in turn results in the uncontrollable excessive levels of ACTH, corticosterone in the cancer cell. With these contributions, I had begun to solidify my footing in the fields of endocrine control mechanism in steroidogenesis and the lesions accompanying it in the process of steroidogenesis. The model systems of the isolated fasciculate and endocortical carcinoma 494 used in these studies had begun to gain notoriety. Consequently, the central concept was gaining strength that ACTH is not the direct steroid hormone regulator. Other intracellular factors may play a critical role in mediating the indirect role of ACTH.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for your very enlightening narration of this scientifically extremely complex problem.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.